Thank you very much. After this session on digitalization, how to move among innovation and tradition. And this is my contribution. This is my informal iPad. I will use this for my notes. Now, with this session, we move to the south. We discussed about Mediterranean tourism, in particular in the European dimension, but tourism in the Mediterranean belong to all the region, of course. And we have with us today important speaker that work on a different level on not only on tourism, but in Mediterranean cooperation, both sides of Mediterranean, the European dimension, the southern Mediterranean dimension. Myself, I'm director of UNIMED, which is a network of universities. We have 144 universities from 23 countries of the Euro-Mediterranean region. And we work, obviously, not only as partner of the sustainable tourism community, but also we have several initiatives to improve cooperation in the academic sector in particular, not only in tourism, but also in the tourist dimension. And I think that the contribution of our speakers and also of our Mediterranean partner, Southern Mediterranean partner in this topic is extremely important. We are in a city very important for the Mediterranean cooperation. As you know, in 1995, the Barcelona process was launched, and we decided as Europeans that the Southern Mediterranean countries became not beneficiary, but partners. This change of perspective was extremely important. But unfortunately, the cooperation with Southern Mediterranean countries, let me say from my personal perspective, worked very well in the cultural dimension, but didn't work very well in the economic cooperation to promote the stability of the region. As we see, unfortunately, the situation in some of Southern Mediterranean countries is still really unstable and also with some turmoil in several countries, more than 1995, where we were in some way with some hope. But this is the reason why we think that tourism in particular could be an important driver for our cooperation to improve stability in the region, to improve the economic situation in the region. This is more important after 2 years of pandemic and the important impact of tourism. In this session, we have 4 different interlocutors. One program authority, an NGO, an UN agency, and a representative of municipality, and also a network of municipalities. We will discuss about the importance of cooperation in with Southern Mediterranean partners in the Mediterranean tourism dimension, looking at the several different perspectives. I start first with Vincent Ernoult, which is represent here the NECBC MED and the Future Next MED program, which is an important organization, program authority to improve Mediterranean cooperation. We have with us also Deborah Rezzoagli, which is director of geographic area. I try with my Italian, which is quite, I have this Italian-English very bad, but my Italian seems better. Comitato Internazionale per lo Sviluppo dei Popoli, which is, they have 25 years of experiences. She has 25 years of experiences in the field of cooperation in NGO, and you know how important is the role of an NGO in particular in such country, in Mediterranean countries. Julien Letellier, she represents here United Nations Environment Program, Mediterranean Action Plan, UNEP-MAP, is an important, obviously I don't have to underline the importance of this agency for the Mediterranean cooperation, but he has a long experience in cooperation as geographer first in the region, but more importantly is with this background, he also a Southern Mediterranean because he had a post-PhD in Morocco, which is quite relevant. And then, finally, we go really in the south with our Lebanese colleagues that represent Professor Dr. Ghassan Tayoun, that represent this deputy mayor of Zgarta municipality, but also represent here the MedCity network. And obviously he has a lot of commitment, and it's impossible to mention all of that, but he's very active in international cooperation. That is an important tool for municipalities, in particular in countries where they are very, very weak in terms of autonomy. But the Lebanese case is quite particular. Then, I already finished my work as moderator. I start with the questions. My first question, I start with Vincent. There's a question to all of you, it's the same question. I kindly ask you to be very brief, 5 minutes, no more. I have some eventual Sansigna to mention you. I don't want to use a red card because it's probably too negative. It's a green, okay?
Oh, okay.
If in case,
We'll accept it.
that will be sustainable. Okay, we know the positive and the negative impact that tourism might have in the Mediterranean. And we are well aware of the urgency of transforming the tourism sector into a real driver for the sustainability transition. From your different point of views, why do we need to cooperate in the Mediterranean region? I mean, obviously, both sides of the region, north and south. Please.
Of course, thank you very much for the interaction, and thank you very much to our long partner and brother program, the MED program, for inviting us and for making this type of events possible. I like very much the question because in the question we have the word cooperation, and that's what all our program is about. If there is one word that defines the ENI CBC MED cooperation, it's of course cooperation. We're not a technical program, so for us, cooperation will always be at the very center of the program. And how can we target, how can we address common challenges if we just forget about one side of the Mediterranean? Of course, it doesn't make sense. The good thing is that we are lucky, and as we have 13 Mediterranean countries, and we will have 15 of them very soon, we have this unique opportunity. Then there is the fact, of course, that this specific question of climate change is very global. There are certain things that we cannot address in common, but of course this is a common problem, and this is a problem that does not understand about borders. Plastics do not stop when they arrive at the middle of the sea and go back to Egypt. So if we do something very good in Spain and the rest is not following, we'll still have the problem in Spain. I'm giving the example of Egypt just by pure luck, of course, no question about Egypt. And then there is another question, is that we think that we already have achieved the maximum of mass tourism. So the problem is at its maximum level. In fact, we are only at the beginning because the world is developing, population is growing. And well, I read a report on tourism in The Economist, it was in 2020, and there were some striking facts. One of them is that 80% of the world population has never put a foot on a plane. Or according to the same source, more than 90% of the people had not taken any flight in 2018. It means that we are only a few people traveling and enjoying tourism. So it's only starting. And the problem will be much, much, much bigger for sure, because middle class are also increasing. And why I'm telling this? Because I'm not a specialist, neither an economist. But these people are going to the Mediterranean because we are and we will remain the most attractive destination. And if the developed world wanted to know the Mediterranean, enjoy the heritage, the culinary experiences, the weather, and all the good things that we have to share, the new people will come to the Mediterranean, first target too. So the sooner we get ready and we prepare together, I think the better. And that's what we achieve That's what we are trying to achieve with our project, to get ready. And of course, linking to your background, the background of your question, we know that we are not going to solve the, or to dramatically increase prosperity in the Mediterranean with our program. We know it. It's impossible. We have only 209 million euros, you can imagine. But I like to think of our program a little bit like the Erasmus program, because we have a big intangible added value, which is the power of cooperation. We make people from both shores meet, people that would have never met without a program, without our projects, I'm sure. They are thinking together, they are exchanging, they are analyzing the past and thinking of the future. And that's already a lot to us. And if that will contribute in a small piece to an increase of prosperity, it's already something we are very proud and happy about.
Thank you very much. Perfect on time. Thank you for this. I will give 1 minute more for the next question for eventually. Deborah,
yes,
please.
Okay, just very few words about CISP. It is an international non-governmental organization based in Rome. We work in about 25 countries all around the world, and we are about 500 people. Okay, we are engaged in humanitarian aid projects, but mostly in development. And we are working in the Mediterranean area since a lot of years. Mediterranean, northern and southern and eastern and western shores. So we believe in cooperation. It's what we do and what we believe in. So what to add on why we should? Okay, we are, I think, if I'm not wrong, around 800 million of people in the basin, in the Mediterranean basin. So this is a huge number. It's a very important one. And let me add also other two big challenges that we are facing, because we have mentioned a lot today, so I don't want to repeat. But anyway, inequalities is increasing, and the pandemic gave really the last bastonata in Italiano. Sorry. And then, and also migration. And migration is also increasing, and many youth are moving to look for new opportunities. So these are all really important reasons to keep on cooperating, working, and of course we can contribute to the prosperity, but in some way we can also change, even if a little bit, the life of the people that are involved in our project. And I can say that really with evidence-based experience. So let me also add one more thing about why, specifically in the tourism sector, among all those sectors we are working in my experience actually in the tourism sector is the one we really managed to achieve very concrete result in a short term with a lasting impact. Why? Because we are working with the people. I mean, we're going in their home. We are talking about their territory, their land, which are the cultural assets, which are the natural beauty of their countries. And we work together to imagine how to promote their own culture. So in this way, really, we are getting a lot of very small but concrete results. People is collaborating, and also cooperation at local level. It is facilitated and encouraged, because that is also a problem. Sometimes in this less known destination, citizens and local authorities and government do not talk with each other, and sometimes citizens, they even don't know what they have around themselves. So this is one more reason to work on, to cooperate in sustainable tourism. Last things, we produce, of course, tangible results like, okay, economic growth, business, small business are growing, or are building on some experiences. Of course, there is technology, innovation, and all this. But what I would like to outline is the intangible results that are not measurable, of course, are not visible, but we can really experience them. And among the intangible, of course, there are, for example, some ambition and desire among youth to learn more about this sector and to work and to develop skills because they really get passionate of this issue. Sense of belonging to their own country, to their own areas, because really sometimes we increase the sense of belonging, but we also recreate, because there are countries where the sense of belonging to territories is really very, very fragile and very vulnerable, like in the Eastern Europe, most of in my experience. Social cohesion and also happiness, let's say. Happiness and hope, it's something that we can really feel while we work with people on the ground talking about tourism. Okay, I stop here.
Thank you very much. Also, you 1 minute more for the next question. And Julien,
Thank you.
From
Marcello.
UN point of view.
Thank you, Marcello, and thank you very much for the invitation to that very interesting meeting. I will stick to your question, and I will mention that indeed the Euro-Mediterranean Partnership was launched through the Barcelona process in 1995, and it was a key milestone for the regional cooperation in our Mediterranean region. It has been revisited in 2008 with the creation of the Union for the Mediterranean. This is the Barcelona process, the UFM governance framework, gathering all the EU member states and the southern and eastern Mediterranean countries. However, there is another regional cooperation framework, which is 20 years more older, if I may, and this is the UNEP Mediterranean Action Plan Barcelona Convention system, which unites only the Mediterranean countries and the EU as the 22 contracting parties to the Barcelona Convention, and you can see on this slide the 22 flag. And 1995 was also an important year for this UNEP MAP Barcelona Convention system, because following the Rio Conference 1992, which reaffirmed the relevance of the sustainable development concept and principle, an amended version of the Barcelona Convention was adopted by the Mediterranean countries and the EU. It became the Convention for the Protection of the Marine Environment and the Coastal Region of the Mediterranean. It is supported by the MAP Phase 2, and in a nutshell, this transition resulted in a few important changes. First of all, marine environment and the protection of the Mediterranean Sea from marine pollution continue to be the core business of UNEP MAP, but because 80% of marine pollution is land-based source pollution coming from terrestrial areas from the land, the new mechanisms focus also on coastal areas. And among other relevant policy instruments of the MAP system, one is particularly relevant for the management of tourism activities and tourist destination. This is the Integrated Coastal Zone Management, which is complemented by the Integrated Coastal Zone Management Protocol, which is complemented by the Regional Framework on Marine Spatial Planning. So the ICCN protocol is a legally binding instrument, and I would like also to mention here another relevant instrument developed by MAP, which is the Regional Action Plan on Sustainable Consumption and Production, which is not a legally binding instrument, but which has among its 4 priority sectors tourism. MAP Phase 2 has still a strong focus on the environmental component of sustainable development, but it also gives more importance to the social and economic pillars. And in the same vein, as reflected in Article 4 of the Barcelona Convention, the Mediterranean Commission on Sustainable Development was created in 1996 as the multi-stakeholder advisory body of the contracting parties to the Barcelona Convention and a forum for experience sharing and peer learning. This commission gathers on an equal footing not only government representatives, but also stakeholders from various categories, local authorities network, private sectors stakeholders, civil society organizations, intergovernmental organizations, the scientific communities, and parliamentarians. The mandate of the MCSD is to assist the parties in their effort to integrate environmental issues in their socio-economic program and to promote sustainable development policies in the Mediterranean region. And among various achievements, the MCSD was instrumental in integrating the principle of the 2030 Agenda and Sustainable Development Goals into the Mediterranean Strategy for Sustainable Development, which is a translation of the SDGs at the Mediterranean regional level. In a nutshell, I would say that the UNEP-MAP Barcelona Convention system is a remarkable example of multilateralism in our region. It was established 40 years ago as a regional multi-environmental agreement based on a UN treaty. It unites 21 Mediterranean countries and the European Union within a unique legally binding framework for policy and implementation. A framework which is made of three dimensions: institutional, regulatory, implementation. In a nutshell, governance and action. We support the definition and implementation of regional environmental policies from the identification of needs to partnership, including with private entities investing toward a more circular and inclusive economy. The vision that guides us is one of peace, prosperity, and healthy ecosystem in a region characterized by inequalities, tension, and conflict, and high pressure on natural resources, but also a region with high level of education, economic and industrial development, vibrant civil society, leading research institutions, and great opportunity for partnership. I see that, may I take just a few seconds more? You will cut for the next question, because I would like to go back to your question, why we need to cooperate. I will be very brief on that. The state of the environment, the report on the state of the environment and development in the Mediterranean, the SOED, which has been prepared by Plan Bleu Regional Activity Center and which has been published in 2020 by UNEP, clearly demonstrates that our region is not on track to achieve the SDG by 2030. However, it also clearly demonstrates that the current situation is actually better compared to a non-intervention scenario. In other words, things could have been worse without the regional cooperation on the environment and development, although, of course, more should be done to become really sustainable. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Also, these last words were very interesting, and don't worry for the next question. Now we move to our to Ghassan Tayoun. The same question for you, but considering that you are from the South Mediterranean, you can say what you want.
I can take some liberties. Thank you very much. Thank you for being here with us. Why cooperate? I think we've heard a beautiful and extraordinary plaidoyer, a plea, on the reasons why, the positive reasons why we need to work together. So everything has been said, except that I would like to take a different approach. I will allow myself to take things in reverse. Why should we not cooperate? Let's see. If we don't want to capitalize on the beautiful work and very conclusive work done so far that we have seen yesterday and this morning, then there's no need to cooperate. We don't want to capitalize on all this. More specifically, if we don't want the self-assessment tools that are already put in place so that we can really accompany our transition, then we will go ahead and create new tools that will not be at all in coherence with the existing ones. Then, of course, we should not cooperate. If we want to keep taking the risk of having an uninformed visitor or traveler, be it coming from the north or the south shores, to visit a place that has worked hard to equip itself with all the tools and all the know-how and all the enabling environment to be a sustainable tourism destination, while this person comes and visits according to uninformed ways and archaic ways of practicing and consuming the space and the identity for his own tourism, then we don't need to cooperate, because we don't need to change the mindset of such person. If we think that environmental threats, and sorry if I am repeating part of what you said, social threats, pandemics, climate change, do not cross borders, then we don't need to cooperate. If we want our pledge to remain, as Jeremy Smith said this morning, without a plan or without an action, or if we want our actions inspired by the pledge to remain without sustainable effects, then we don't need to cooperate. No collaboration is needed. If we think that gender, education, and other inequalities are for keeps, then there's no need to cooperate. So let's go back to a more straightforward way to say things. We need to cooperate because there is no going back. After the pandemic, after the crisis we are living through, there is no going back to old ways of viewing things, to old ways of working, to old ways of kind of parachuting decisions from the top down. There's no going back to leaving many of us behind. So if we want not to leave anyone behind, then let's cooperate. And more particularly in tourism, from experience, from what we heard yesterday and today, it would seem that tourism is a good place to apply circularity principles, except, of course, for the long stretch of transport and mobility by aircraft to arrive to a place. Today, immersive tourism, solidarity tourism are really vehicles and drivers for circularity, local circular economy, and local development. If we take them as such, then we would be able to perhaps better bring better proof that, yes, there is a way to lean or to tend towards achieving our goals by 2030, perhaps a bit late or at a less percentage level, but I think cooperation is key to all these issues. And I will stop here. So this way I can maybe have a bonus for the next answer.
Sure. You have bonus per definition.
Thank you,
Don't
but I
worry about that.
promise
Thank
you we will discuss the issue of the Southern Shore and personally as a municipal representative in the next answer.
Thank you very much, and thanks. The bonus that I can add for you is to invite all of you to visit Lebanon, which is an amazing country. If you don't have this experience, please try to do as soon as possible, because they need our support in a very particular and difficult moment. And this is the reason why I thank you again for being with us today in such to share with us.
Everybody will be welcome to his own home.
Yeah,
That's how we
sure,
live it.
sure. Thank you very much for this.
Thank you.
All of you gave very interesting information about what not only what you do, but also in particular what you think about the reason why we have to cooperate. Thanks, Vincent, for touching the Erasmus, the importance of Erasmus program as a pillar of our cooperation in the region. We are used to say that through Erasmus program we create a European citizenship. In some way, we talk about Erasmus families now, Erasmus babies. Also, I'm used to say Erasmus divorce. Why not? Because it's life in some way. And we are trying also to push European Commission to do more and more for mobility of students, because what we need exactly is to understand, to invite youth to create a sort of Mediterranean generation, and to try to understand our differences and to use it as a richness, not as an obstacle. And this, I think that tourism in the sustainable way, obviously, could be an important driver. talking about the state of the art about our cooperation, this is the second question that I have for all of you, but different ones. Starting from Vincent again. The NECBC now is become next Met. It's just a marketing issue, or is something that you are working on to cooperate with also the other Interreg programs, and which results you have from the NECBC that you will use in the new framework program?
Thanks. Well, thank you also for giving me the possibility to be the first, because it's easier to respond. Well, I would like to tell you that the new name is the result of many marketing efforts from the program, but it's not the case. So we don't decide, of course. This name was given to us by the European Commission. We are entering in the Interreg family, and we are happy about this. Frankly, we don't care much about the name. It doesn't matter. Doesn't even matter that much if we are or if we are not Interreg. We are happy to be in, but it's not most important point for us. What matters is our vision. Our vision is a better, smarter, greener, and more social Mediterranean. And our mission. Our mission is to reach this thanks to cooperation. And I like very much, Deborah is working with us, so I like your words, but she mentioned people. And it's always been something that has been very important to our program, to reach people, because we like our partners. So many of you are partners also from our program, and I like to see you. You are very important. But the most important point is to reach the people, those people who need really the funds, the money, by creating jobs, by providing training, by helping small SMEs, and that will not change. And as we are all together, there is no time anymore, so I leave you. Please stop me.
I don't see it. I have mine. Don't worry. Mine is better. Sure.
Okay. It's more
More
precise.
reliable.
No. You go faster.
Okay. As you are all experts in tourism, let me give you some words on Interreg Next Med and tourism. Well, the program in global will have some big novelties, 2 new countries. That's the big new thing with Algeria and Turkey. More money, of course, we are happy about this. 40 million euro in extra 40 million. That's good. And then tourism. I think tourism is something that could fit almost everywhere in the program. We'll have 8 specific objectives, and you will be able almost to be everywhere. So I know that you are already preparing your minds to submit proposals next year. Well, the program should be approved by the end of the year. We will launch the first call of proposals during the first quarter or second one of next year. So you have more or less 1 year to think about the idea, to develop the partnership, to find the common challenge and the common solutions. And we'll still have a priority on developing and supporting SMEs, startups, SMEs of tourism, of course, of taking up advanced technologies in tourism. In fact, we have one project on technologies run by the American University of Beirut. So there's also a field there. We will have on green transition, you can imagine, from water efficiency to energy efficiency to circular economy. I think you will be there too. There will be an option. Or objectives will be less closed than before. They will be a bit more open, in the sense, for example, that energy efficiency will not be strictly linked to public buildings anymore. So there will be more room for more things. I think that's a very good point. And we will still have a thematic objective dedicated to training. So I think training in everything, but of course training in tourism, in blue skills. Well, any skills related to tourism will fit in there too. We will be a newcomer in terms of objectives on health, maybe health, well, health and tourism. We have seen during the pandemic, there is something to do, maybe transport, linking there. And we will have another one on improving the cooperation of governance. So this is less concrete, but there is room for tourism, of course. We will launch the first call next year. So we are, as always, late in comparison with our friends from the Med, but I think it's good for you because
We are Mediterranean.
you
We
don't have
be late.
to,
We have to be late.
to work on everything at the same time. Now you're dedicated to Med, next year to us. And I would like to recall you, all of you, that you have the program structures at your assistance. For the Western Mediterranean, you have the branch office in Valencia, so down in the south of Barcelona, and we will be very, very happy to help you. We will make Next Med Tour. This is a good brand, Next Med Tour. So we will go everywhere, starting from the second semester. Thanks.
Okay, thank
Sorry.
you. Just a quick question, yes or not? Morocco and Libya, any hope for the future?
Hope, well, I never can say that there are no hope, but for the coming future, no.
Okay. Deborah.
Yep.
No, let me do my job. I have to do the question. In the previous intervention, you said about the importance of intangible results. You are working on some NECBC projects. You have direct experiences about what Vincent said us for the previous and obviously for the future. From your experiences on the ground, which is extremely important for all of us, how much are Mediterranean tourism stakeholders cooperating across borders?
Okay. Yes, they are. Okay. It's difficult. It has been very difficult during the pandemic, but still cooperation is alive. It's producing results. Let's say that during the pandemic, it's been, at the beginning, we were all shocked, so we had a kind of, okay, how to get organized. The risk was high to shut up, I mean, to stay on each of us in its own country and to implement the activities, just to share some info. No, but now in my experience, actually, we were all online all time, and we managed really to keep collaboration alive and to work very hard. But this is just because, of course, the lockdown, the pandemic, and all these problems. But anyway, yes, cooperation is alive, and cross-border is alive. What I can say in my experience is that there is the need, there is the desire to collaborate north and the south shore of the Mediterranean. We really have something to learn from each other. We are, as we said, facing the same challenges, same problems. So there hasn't been any stop, let's say. Actually, in my experience, we had a very good chance to also do a step forward. So I am the coordinator of the CrossDev project. That is a standard project in the NECBC Med program on sustainable tourism. And we had the chance that actually came easily and naturally. I'm looking at my partners here in Spain and in Jordan. The 4 standard projects, they naturally put together in the Restart Med project. That is a capitalization one. And came really naturally. I mean, it was like, okay, step forward, let's go ahead, let's try to capitalize and to enlarge this community. So today we are all involved in this capitalization project that again involves CrossDev, but also Medusa, MedPearls, and MedGames. And we have a lot of experience developed on the ground that we are now exchanging and building on. And I'm sure that we will keep on going ahead with further steps. I'm sure of it.
And you think that the situation, independently by the pandemic, is promising in terms of cooperation among our region, or you see that there is a lack of interest, for instance, from the European side to the Southern Mediterranean?
No.
Okay.
No. There is not a lack of it. Actually, the European Union is giving a very good signs
No,
in terms
I mean
of...
the stakeholders. European Union, I know,
No,
but the
stakeholders.
stakeholders.
In my experience, everybody is willing to keep cooperating and collaborating, absolutely. Yes.
Thank you
I
very
can
much.
confirm.
Thank you very much for this. Julien, you, in the previous message, you gave us positive and a negative feedback in some way. The negative one was that it's impossible for Mediterranean region to achieve SDGs goal by 2030. And this is almost clear, I think, also for some European countries. At the same time, you mentioned us that multilateral cooperation was extremely successful to at least start a change process in the region. But what is your balance, your assess about the Mediterranean cooperation, in particular looking at tourism, but not only looking at our main goals, our priorities, our common priorities and common problems?
Thank you. Thank you for that question. I think I would like to focus on tourism, which is the theme of that convention and sustainable tourism. And I would like to get back, let's say, 10 years ago, when I was a program officer at Plan Bleu Regional Activity Center of UNEP-MAP, and I coordinated a project which was titled Profile of Sustainability in 11 tourist destinations. At that period, we have developed, and it was quite innovative, we have developed a common methodology which was built and used to assess the economic, environmental, and social footprint of tourism activities in destinations of Croatia, Italy, Spain, Morocco, Algeria, Tunisia, Egypt, and Turkey. So the experts work in depth at the level of those destinations, and beyond a compilation of case studies, and based on their result, we have prepared a typology of Mediterranean tourist destination, which is still valid. But beyond that, we have also proposed a series of recommendations in two complementary directions, which are, in my view, very, very valid still today. First of all, the need for local observatories and monitoring system of tourism activities at the level of destination to follow the progress and the changes. I think that thanks to initiatives such as this one developed in the Interreg-Med program, we progress in that direction, but a lot has to be done to achieve this kind of recommendation. Secondly, the need to establish local participatory governance fora with all concerned stakeholders at the level of the destination, and to define and adjust regularly what we can call adaptive policies. And a few years later, Plan Bleu seized the opportunity of partnerships offered by the EU-funded Interreg-Med program. I attend several information meetings, established contact with the at this time, Joint Technical Secretariat. We had many brainstorming sessions, and finally, Plan Bleu was involved in the relevant consortia of the so-called transversal communication and capitalization project, not only on tourism, but also on biodiversity, allowing to link those two, let's say, sectors. And by interacting with the Secretariat, the latter became, I think, more aware of the relevance of the MAP instrument, and UNEP-MAP policies at that time were duly reflected in the programmatic document. It is, for an organization such Plan Bleu or UNEP-MAP, an achievement in itself. And I think that the Interreg-Med tourism community is something very relevant, to the point, and supporting the implementation component of the MAP Barcelona Convention system. There is a complementarity between the top-down approach because we are defining the regional policies, but also this bottom-up approach because what we heard today is highlighting, realms from the destination and from what happened clearly on the field. So this complementarity between top-down and bottom-up approach is something very relevant. Let me also provide a few let's say, general consideration, but important regarding the tourism sector, which is very complex, transversal sector at the crossroad of all economic sector. But environmental sustainability and economic competitiveness are not yet playing on equal terms. There may be some resistance from policymakers to recognize and address environmental impact of tourism simply because tourism remain the most important activity in terms of GDP and employment in the Mediterranean region, which is a top destination worldwide. 15% of the regional GDP and employment is coming directly from the economic sector. When we look at UNEP-MAP Barcelona Convention focal point, so the government representative are coming from the Ministry of the Environment or Ministry of Foreign Affairs, and simply tourism does not belong to their portfolio. And there is this issue of lack of interministerial dialogue on sustainable development issues. Tourism is very often covered by Prime Ministry, Ministry of Economy, or Ministry of Tourism, and there is only a few touristic country cases where we have a Ministry of Tourism and Sustainable Development. Another important issue, in my view, is that major tourism investors and operators have not yet prioritized environmental and social sustainability consideration. They are still following conventional schemes and linear business model versus circular and with quick return on investment. In such a business as usual scenario, tourism will see an increase in energy consumption, greenhouse gas emission, water consumption, and solid waste disposal in the future. We cannot influence only the consumer, the consumption side, and consumer could not have a virtuous behavior if producers don't change their practice. The production side has an important role to play, and I think that it will be important that this kind of initiative or convention or meeting also involve actors from the private sector and in premise big companies, because big companies have the capacity to invest in more sustainable behavior, but also the capacity to embark small and medium enterprise. So I know that I am becoming long, and I stop here. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Kassan. You are here not only to represent your municipality, but also a network of municipalities in the Mediterranean region, MedCities. As all our colleagues said before, today in some way, we discussed about the importance of the bottom-up approach, the importance of these international cooperation programs, and I would like to know from your point of view if municipalities are well involved in these international program activities, or if there are obstacles to improve the participation of municipalities, and what we can do to support municipalities to be well involved in international projects for the importance that they have. The bottom-up approach is quite common in some way in the European dimension with Southern Mediterranean, with the lack of autonomy that you have. The municipalities, generally speaking, but also other actors, is very, in some cases, very complicated. But what is your point of view on this?
In fact, I would like to just a little bit contextualize my presence here. I'm here because I'm a member of a bigger family. Our municipality is a member of many networks, of which perhaps the one with the most efficacy and mostly at our scale, which is MedCities. So represented here by our Secretary General Josep and Director Oriol Barba and the team who worked on all projects, and including yesterday the restitution of InCircle. As such, we are quite active. Municipalities, by and large, are members of networks at their scale. And we always try to be sufficiently active because we need to respond to our citizens' expectations. At the same time, municipalities in different countries have different levels of not only competencies, but also means to work on their projects, depending on the level of decentralization, depending on the level of autonomy of financing that they can perhaps reach. So municipalities have to adapt to their means while always being at the front line of citizens' expectations. If the central government fails, it's the municipality that bears the first burden. If a municipality fails to, I don't know, join a network with a program, such as in an ICBC Med or other, it kind of at the same time digs its own grave by not enabling itself to access financing opportunities, be it for capacity building, planning, strategic positioning, or maybe transitioning some of its sectors of activities into something more sustainable. If we talk about the major international programs, such as the European one, I'm really happy to know, if my information is correct, that next Gen program will be more open perhaps for participation by municipalities as associates. Allow me to say at the same time that writing a program, writing a project without the help of a perhaps lead who knows how to do it, who has experience, who has the means, the human resources and the time to apply for such projects is beyond the capacity of the normal municipality, especially in the south. So we need, I think, to promote maybe the idea of simplifying a little bit the process while keeping an accent on transparency, of course, on good governance and good use of resources so that municipalities can really pretend to work on their capacities and be more ambitious in their programs. At the same time, I have to point out also that the modest projects made accessible to us through MedCities, as an example, are very structuring at the same time. We don't spend huge amounts of money. And at the same time, they work on networking. So we have many projects conceived and for which finances has been secured by MedCities that work on municipal relationships, for example, in the South Shore Mediterranean, with always some kind of a link to bigger municipalities. I'm referring mainly to Terbrand project, where we worked on branding the territories of 3 municipalities in Lebanon, with a referent being Izmir, which is a huge municipality with huge capacities. Today we are working with Jordan, Salt in Jordan, Sousse in Tunisia, Oujda in Morocco, and Zghar Tahden in Lebanon, on a project that tries to redynamize social economy post-COVID or post-crisis. So it's not a matter of size, it's not a matter of scale, but it is a matter also of ambitions. Not only because we want to be ambitious, but because we need to be ambitious. The tasks at hand are huge. I can only invite you to just follow up a little bit on the news in Lebanon. Of course, it's a country where you never get bored, every single day you have a new crisis that you have to manage and respond to. The problem being that you don't have the means if you are not accompanied, at least morally and psychologically, by family members who are other municipalities of the networks within the Mediterranean. And one last word, the Mediterranean is the center of the world. We should not forget this. We are perhaps the main hub from which rose the civilizations of humanity. We are complex, we are very stubborn, we are difficult to live with. If we want to go by the legal aspects, but we are very, very, very nice people to live together, as you can see here, and we have beautiful cuisine, beautiful weather, so let's work together to make it better. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Gaston. I think that we have, I ask 5 minutes more before to conclude, but there is a question to do this work, it seems simple, but try to read the monitor from this distance for an old guy like me. Thanks for the technical support that gave us the big screen. I think that question is in particular for Vincent. I have to add something, but please, you already see the question. I don't have to complicate my life.
That's a good question, in fact, because we are here defending cooperation. Some of you may think that if we are not even cooperating between two programs, it's a bit strange to ask you for more cooperation. Of course, it's a long story, but we have improved a lot. Well, at the very beginning, we were not very much connected, the two programs, but now, of course, we have improved a lot. For example, one of the last babies of ENI CBC MED program, one of your projects, so the capitalization call, we made it mandatory for all projects to capitalize with a list of MED projects that were previously identified as priority by the MED program. This is already a big result coming from not much common action, let's say. So really a big step forward. Then there is a specific question on how do we guarantee that there is no duplication. Well, 100% guarantee no duplication in any activity, of course, we cannot. Of course, in fact, it's not possible because there are so many donors in the world that, of course, we are all duplicating. But during the evaluation process, make sure that if you submit to our program a project that has mainly been done, or it's currently being done in the MED program, our evaluators will identify this. Of course, we have mechanisms to ensure that we're not replicating the same project. So don't even think about that ID. I know you are not thinking about that, but yeah, this is one of the key points for us. And then we have some new initiatives that are coming. There is one initiative for the next MED program just on sustainable tourism, to build a synergy group and ensure that in this specific topic that was chosen first by some countries for its relevance, we made sure that the two programs are advancing in the correct way, in the same way, and at least they are in close connection. But yeah, that was a very good question.
Thank you very much. I go to the other speakers with one single question for review, but very short answer. This is more difficult in some case. You have surely, all of you, positive and negative story to talk about cooperation, international cooperation. If you can do something to ameliorate the situation, to improve the situation of international cooperation, starting from your personal perspective and your experiences, what you would like to ask or to have or to improve? Deborah.
Difficile.
This is my job.
No, okay.
Don't say money, please.
Yeah, okay.
because
Okay.
this is not a matter of
Really
money. I don't
money.
want to interrupt you, but it's not
No,
a matter of money. We need
what-
something.
What is important from my point of view is always to ensure coherence, okay, between what the donor, okay, the government, the European Commission, or whoever is funding, is promoting and expect from us. That can be, I mean, there should always be some coherence between what they ask and what we do, and what we achieve and what they expect. So coherence for me is really a key word in cooperation. And coherence is not only in terms of objective, outcomes, output, it's also in terms of examples, in terms of behavior, in terms of, leading a process. It gives you power, but it gives you also big
You mean from all the actors
Yeah.
involved, from
Give
from
big
the top?
responsibilities. On the other side, what I really would also like a lot is experience like this one. So let me really thank to Joseph and Georgina to have invited me, because I learned a lot really yesterday and today about Interreg Med projects. I didn't know so much, so now I learn more. And yes, there are some complementarity, there are something that we can exchange, but there is something we can work together in a project or not. But anyway, there are some really good potential in order to not duplicate, but actually to replicate and to strengthen cooperation among us. So this is the only two things that now came up to my mind.
Perfect. Julien?
Thank you. I will speak about, let's say, multilateral regional cooperation on an equal footing, on equal terms between the north and the south of the Mediterranean basin. And I think that those synergy which are created between the, maybe I have not the good jargon, but between the Interreg Med program and the NECBC Med is going definitively in the right direction. It's something for which we pledge for many years, and sometimes because some projects are developed only for the northern rim, that is creating frustration for the south, because they are interested to also cooperate within this project. And considering in our UNEP-MAP Barcelona Convention system, the EU member state and the EU as such steer, if I may, the process and on a very ambitious direction and the policies. But it's on the other hand, it is also very important to take into account the needs expressed by the southern Mediterranean country, and to bridge the gap between those needs and what the system is able to offer them. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Listen.
Yes, I personally would perhaps see more criteria for reciprocal action built into the projects, meaning that we have, from the south, a lot to give. Perhaps not financially, perhaps not technologically, but we have this need imposed upon us by our situations to be more resilient. And if we at least exchange and tell you about our adaptation capacity and this rebound capacity also that you have, I don't think it's in the genes. It's in every human gene to be able to rebound after a crisis. But since we have been under crisis for so many years in a row, I think it would be good for the projects to incorporate some kind of a reciprocity criteria, activities, whatever. And we've done this successfully with the Département de l'Aude in France, where we worked on, because we have these UNESCO World Heritage Sites in Lebanon. We had worked with UNESCO in the previous years to be able to put them on those lists. And the Département de l'Aude, for example, had are still in the process of putting some of their heritage on that list, and we were able at least to tell them what obstacles they may be able to anticipate so that it facilitates their life. And it was successful to a large extent. So reciprocity to be embedded in some of the projects.
Yeah, thank you very much.
Thank
That
you.
is also something that Deborah mentioned, that is a vice versa
Yes.
learning process. This is extremely important. We are at the end of the session. I just want to use some words that has been used during this session. Reciprocity. First of all, let me start with your last comments. Also the importance of multilateralism, which is extremely important, and the importance of local actors. Again, the importance to discuss and to work with local actors, and the importance of NGOs' experiences, because, as I was saying, learning each other. And obviously, coordination among projects has been asked, and I think that is extremely important that you are in the same basket. That will surely help. But at the end, we are discussing not about projects. We are discussing about our common destiny, because Mediterranean is our common destiny. And we need, talking about both shores of Mediterranean, we need a positive storytelling related to Mediterranean society. Ghassan gave us a very interesting touch of Lebanese residency, Lebanese life, but the Arab world, as you probably know, enjoy life. I think that we have to try to understand that they have the same needs, the same still of life in some way, or at least the same idea to enjoy life. Please consider this once you look at the southern Mediterranean shore. And again, let me say again, try to visit Lebanon. Thank you very much.
Thank you.